Will Anderson is the top-ranked player on my big board and obviously my first-ranked edge rusher in this draft class. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school and was ranked number 17 nationally in his class. As a freshman, he was second-team all-conference in the SEC, and then in 2021 he led the nation in sacks with 17.5, tackles for loss at 23.5, and pressures at 82. He was a first-team All-American in both 2021 and 2022, and his 207 career pressures are 55 more than the next closest defender over the last 3 years. His 37 sacks are 10 more. His 91.5 run defense grade from PFF trails only Aiden Hutchinson, the number 2 pick in last year's draft. He is 6'4", 253 pounds, 21 and a half years old, and ran a 4.8 40, which is 89th percentile. In 2022, he had 51 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, 1 interception, 1 touchdown, and 1 pass defensed. Anderson has an explosive first step off of the edge, and he uses that to threaten offensive tackles' outside shoulders, and from there he can do a lot of different things. He can convert his speed to power and bull rush. He can throw a two-hand punch, a long arm, a push-pull. He's got a little bit of a spin move. He's got a lot of moves that he can use to get past offensive tackles. Additionally, he's a really good run defender. He's always the low man, he reads out concepts well, and he disrupts plays at the point of attack. He's very good chasing down from the backside. He's also very good as a looper on passing downs, using his athleticism to get to the quarterback. Now, he's not the most bendy guy around the edge, and he could continue to develop his pass rush moves. A lot of time, offensive tackles will set wide to force him to play through their frame, which isn't his strength, but it is something that he could work on. I think Will Anderson's best scheme fit at the next level is as a stand-up rusher in an odd front, someone who can win off of the edge, who can help set the edge in the running game and be an immediate impact player in their rookie season. Jalen Carter is the number 2 player on my big board and my top-ranked interior defensive lineman in this class. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school. He also played basketball and was a weightlifter. He became a rotational player for 2 years before becoming the full-time starter for Georgia in 2022, and he was named a first-team All-American despite missing 2 games. He is 6'3", 314 pounds, and just 22 years old. In 2022, he had 32 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 3 pass defensed, 2 forced fumbles, and a 92.3 PFF grade that was first among all Power 5 interior defensive linemen. Carter has a high motor that's on display every single play in his film. He handles double teams really well in the running game. He's able to drop a strong anchor and prevent being displaced on inside runs. And he's lined up nearly everywhere between the tackles for Georgia. And so you can use him as a 1 technique. You can use him as a 3, as a 4-eye. You can move him around. He's got a great club or swim move that he uses well when he is a 1-gap defender as a pass rusher. And he's got a quick first step, excellent body control. He's able to slide through gaps. He's a very slippery player in the trenches. Now, as for his weaknesses, he is overly reliant on that club move and that swim move. He's going to need to develop more moves. He's going to need to be able to chain those moves together at the next level, and he needs some technical refinement. He is a monster in the trenches, but there's some technical growth that he could experience. And finally, it's the off-the-field red flags. There was a warrant for his arrest in a car crash at the combine. He showed up to his pro day 9 pounds overweight and was unable to finish his drills. And so there's some character concerns, some off-field things that teams need to be aware of. It's possible some teams will take him off of their board completely. But without access to that information, just looking at the tape, this is a blue chip player, someone who should excel at the next level, especially if used as a 1-gapper in an even scheme. Anthony Richardson is the number 3 overall player on my big board and my number 1 quarterback in this class. He is 6'4", 244 pounds, and set the combine on fire with a 4.43 40-yard dash, a 40.5-inch vertical jump, and a 10.9 broad jump. His overall relative athletic score was a 10.0, making him the most athletic quarterback to ever test at the combine. In 2022, he completed 53.8% of his passes for 2,549 yards, which is 7.8 yards per attempt, 17 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He also rushed 103 times for 654 yards and 9 touchdowns. There is no throw that Richardson can't make. He has a cannon of an arm and can throw from multiple arm angles. He is big and physical, and he's often able to shrug off pass rushers and extend plays. He's dangerous out of structure, and he's hard to bring down in the running game, breaking 39 tackles in 2022. He often gives his team a second play on the same down by breaking the pocket and scrambling when he doesn't like the look that a defense gives him. And we're not talking about 5-yard runs here. He is a threat to score every time he tucks the ball and leaves the pocket. Now, for all of his upside, Richardson can be very inconsistent from game to game. His inconsistent mechanics leads to poor downfield accuracy at times, and his 28.2% uncatchable pass rate over the last 2 seasons is the 7th highest in the nation. He was also very reliant on play action, with 37% of his passes coming off of play fakes. On straight dropbacks, his yards per attempt dropped 57%, and his completion percentage dropped 7 points. Richardson is the ultimate bet-on-traits prospect. He's incredibly raw and only threw 393 passes at the collegiate level. He has the highest ceiling in this class, and while his athletic ability gives him a decently high floor, there is a larger chance he never puts it all together as a passer than there is for many of the other quarterbacks in this class. He isn't a safe pick by any stretch of the imagination, but he is an exciting talent whose reward makes him well worth the risk. CJ Stroud is the number 4 overall player on my big board and my top-ranked quarterback in this class. He is 6'3" and weighs 214 pounds. Stroud was a 2-season starter at Ohio State, where he was a back-to-back Heisman finalist. He is the first player in Big Ten history with back-to-back seasons of 30-plus touchdowns, and he actually had 40-plus touchdowns in each season. In 2022, he completed 66.3% of his passes for 3,688 yards, which is 9.5 yards per attempt, with 41 passing touchdowns versus only 6 interceptions. Stroud is a very smooth thrower of the football, and he is the best passer from the pocket in this class. He throws with great anticipation and timing. There are instances of the ball being out of his hands before receivers are out of their break all over his tape. He's also very skilled at using his eyes to manipulate defenders out of throwing lanes. In 2022, he had 29 big-time throws, which ranked 6th highest in the NCAA and was the highest total of the 4 projected first-round quarterbacks. He shows great command of the offense pre-snap, often setting his own protections at the line of scrimmage and calling audibles based on defensive alignment. However, Stroud didn't often play out of structure at Ohio State, and he looked robotic at times in his reads. He showed the ability to improvise against Georgia during the college football playoff loss, but outside of that game, you rarely see it. In other games, he tended to drift away from pressure rather than evading or stepping up to deliver throws. He also has a bit of an inconsistent throwing base where he's a little too toesy, and it causes some mechanical inconsistencies in his game. The question for Stroud is, can he play off script and he just didn't have to until the Georgia game? Or was it a one-game anomaly that won't often be seen again? 10 years ago, Stroud would have been the consensus number 1 quarterback, but in the modern NFL, everyone wants a guy who can improvise when things don't go according to plan, and projecting that ability off of a one-game sample size can be very dangerous. Bryce Young is the number 5 overall player on my big board and my 3rd-ranked quarterback in this class. He is 5'10" and weighed in at 204 at the combine, although he will play around 195 pounds. Young started for 2 years at Alabama, winning the Heisman Trophy in 2021, being a 2-time All-American, and leaving Alabama 2nd in career passing yards and touchdowns. In 2022, he completed 64.5% of his passes for 3,328 yards at 8.8 yards per attempt. He threw 32 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, while also adding 4 rushing touchdowns. Young is a cerebral quarterback who diagnoses coverages quickly post-snap and knows how to attack the pressure points of whatever coverage the defense shows him. He's comfortable throwing to the middle of the field from the pocket, something that is surprising given his height. He is a highly accurate passer to all areas of the field. Whether it's dropping deep balls over a receiver's shoulder, hitting opposite hash outbreakers, or hitting timing throws in the short game, Young is always on time and on target. He also shines when playing out of structure, where he's able to give his offense a second chance for a positive play if the original play call doesn't work. Young does take very deep drops, presumably to gain vision over his offensive line, which can make pass protection more difficult for his offensive tackles. The only real weakness to Young's game is his size. At 5'10", he is in the first percentile for quarterback height, and his playing weight of 195 is 0th percentile for QB weight. While shorter quarterbacks like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray have found success in the NFL, both are considerably more dense than Young. Bryce Young is an early favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. The real question mark is about the longevity of his career as hits start to pile up on his slight frame. Whoever drafts Young will have a very good quarterback. The only real question is, for how long? Peter Skoronsky is the number 6 player on my big board and my top-ranked offensive lineman in this draft class. He was a 4-star prospect and the 3rd-ranked center prospect in the country coming out of high school. At Northwestern, he took over for Rashawn Slater as a true freshman in 2020 and started at left tackle for 3 years. He is 6'4", which is 8th percentile for height, 313 pounds with 4th percentile arm length. Overall, he had a 9.3 relative athletic score. In 2022, he had a 93 pass blocking grade, which was first among offensive tackles, and a 1.3% pressure rate allowed that ranked second among offensive tackles. Skoronsky is a top-tier pass protector. He has great balance. He has really smooth kicks. He's got quick feet. He's able to get out and handle even the most athletic rushers off the edge. He has very good awareness of stunts and blitzers. His head is always on a swivel. He's always looking for a new target in pass protection. And he's really good in the running game as well. He has the athleticism to pull and to climb into the second level where he can bury linebackers and safeties. He is a highly polished left tackle who could potentially play all 5 positions on the offensive line. Remember, he was a center prospect when he committed to Northwestern. Now, unfortunately, his physical profile isn't the best for a tackle. He's undersized, and some teams may view him exclusively as an interior offensive line prospect. He is topped out in the nuances of the position. His technique is flawless, which sounds good, except there are instances on tape of him struggling against longer rushers. He lacks the explosiveness and the length to handle those guys at times, and you can't coach up his technique much. There's not room for problematic. And so what you get is good, but it may be problematic at offensive tackle. And so he may slide down boards on draft nights being seen only as an interior offensive line prospect, although I do think his first shot should be playing offensive tackle at the next level and using offensive guard as a fallback plan if the limitations are prohibitive. Christian Gonzalez is the number 7 player on my big board and my top-ranked defensive back in this class. He was a 4-star recruit who started his career at Colorado before transferring to Oregon for 2020, where he immediately earned first-team All-Pac-12 honors. He is 6'1", 197 pounds. He will only be 20 years old on draft night, ran a 4.38 40-yard dash, which is 89th percentile, with a 41.5-inch vertical that was 96th percentile. And overall, he has a 9.95 relative athletic score. In 2022, he had 51 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 7 passes defensed. Gonzalez loves to play physically at the line of scrimmage in press man coverage. He loves to get hands on receivers, and he does a really good job of mirroring routes and staying on a wide receiver's hip in and out of their breaks. In zone coverage, he does a good job of reading the quarterback's eyes while maintaining awareness of the receivers in his area, and he can click and close downhill in a flash. He has top-end speed on the field, not just at the combine. He was clocked at 23.3 miles per hour on GPS during the 2021 season. He does a great job of raking the arms at the catch point, but I would like to see him attack the ball and try to catch it a little bit more. And he's a great tackler. He missed only 6% of his tackle attempts in 2022. As for his weaknesses, he is prone to double moves. His aggressiveness, he likes to close downhill, he likes to hit receivers, and that makes him prone to a well-executed double move, and players will get over the top on him at times. And he also tends to be a little grabby throughout the route, which is not uncommon with college corners, but it's something to be aware of. He also took 139 snaps in the slot, so he's got a little versatility, but he was not as good from the slot as he was on the outside. I think his best fit at the next level is as a boundary corner who can be used in whatever scheme you run. If you want him to play press man, if you want him to play off man or off zone coverage, he can do it all, and he would be a great fit for any football team. Paris Johnson is the number 8 player on my big board and my second-ranked offensive lineman in this draft class. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, the number 1 offensive tackle and number 9 player in his class. He appeared in 5 games as a freshman, started at right guard in 2021 where he earned second-team All-Conference honors, and then in 2022 he played at left tackle and was a second-team All-American. He also received academic accolades at Ohio State and helped establish a foundation to help veterans and underprivileged children. He is 6'6", 313 pounds, with 96th percentile arm length and 82nd percentile bench press, and is just under 22 years old. In 2022, he had an 83.1 grade at left tackle, which was 4th among all Power 5 tackles. In 2022, he allowed only 1 sack and 7 pressures. Johnson has quick feet and outstanding lateral quickness. He is very balanced while he absorbs contact and he redirects rushers. He's very good against speed rushers and speed to power rushers off of the edge because he has the lateral agility to get out into his kicks, and then he's so well balanced that when they generate power, he's able to absorb that effectively. He's also very physical in the run game. He loves to bury edge defenders and linebackers, put them on the ground when Ohio State calls running plays. Now, as for his weaknesses, he does play a little too upright at times, and he will allow defenders to get under his pads. At times, they'll fire out, get under the pads, and the low man wins. He'll surrender leverage. At times, he could also use work on landing his initial punch. Missing defenders with that initial punch is how the defenders get into his pads in the first place and get into his chest. And so the biggest weakness of his game, if he can work on that punch timing and landing that, the placement and the timing, it will help mitigate what's probably his biggest weakness so far. I think Johnson projects to the next level as a plug-and-play left tackle. I think you can draft him and expect him to be a day one starter, and that he's going to have a smooth on-ramp to being a high-caliber NFL player. Devonte Witherspoon is the number 9 player on my big board and my second-ranked defensive back in this class. He was a 0-star recruit who only started playing football as a junior in high school, but he was a 4-year contributor for Illinois with his best season coming in 2022 when he was a first-team All-American. He is 5'11", 181 pounds, which is only 10th percentile weight, and he's 22 years old. In 2022, he had 41 tackles, 3 interceptions, 14 pass breakups, and he allowed 0 touchdowns. Witherspoon has a very physical play style, and I'm not just talking about at the line of scrimmage in the passing game either. He loves to come downhill and hit running backs. He is a very athletic corner with very fluid hips. He's smooth in his transitions. He can stick with wide receivers out of their breaks. He could play in the slot if you needed him to. He has the quickness to be able to defend two-way goes. He could potentially play some safety for you, and he's a very good special teamer, so he can give you a lot of impact in a lot of different ways. However, he can be a little grabby in coverage, as is common with college cornerbacks. He likes to get hands on you, and he wants to be aggressive, and sometimes he takes it a little too far. He also overruns plays at times, especially in the run game. Now, he is not very good in zone coverage, in my opinion. Quarterbacks are able to use his aggressiveness against him and manipulate him into closing on the wrong routes and then throwing into the holes vacated by him. And I think he's a little undersized for his play style. He plays like a 200-pound corner. He loves to come and hit, but he's only 10th percentile weight, 181 pounds. And so there could be some concerns about his durability playing that way. He could potentially be limited to the slot in the NFL, but he's such a competitive player. I do think he's going to be able to stick on the outside. I think he fits best at the next level in a man-heavy scheme. You don't want him to play a lot of zone coverage, but you want to play him in man. You want to get him up on the line and allow him to be as aggressive as he can be with opposing receivers. Joey Porter Jr. is the number 10 player on my big board and my third-ranked defensive back in this class. He is the son of former Steelers linebacker Joey Porter. He was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school and a 3-year starter for Penn State with 20 passes defensed and 1 interception in 35 games. He is huge at 6'3", which is 96th percentile for height. He's 193 pounds. He has 34-inch arms, which is 98th percentile. A 4.48 40-yard dash, which was 64th percentile, but a 1.5 10-yard split that is 82nd percentile. Overall, he has a 9.72 relative athletic score. In 2022, he had 27 tackles, 11 pass breakups, which is 1.1 per game, which ranked top 25 in the NCAA. He allowed 3.7 yards per passing attempt, which ranked 5th, and contested 76% of the passes thrown his way, which ranked 4th, while forcing a 40% incompletion rate that led all Power 5 cornerbacks. He has tremendous size and length. He's often able to disrupt routes and then get his hands on the ball at the catch point. He uses his length really well to press off the line of scrimmage and then transition into a trail technique that gives QBs only a marginal window to throw the football into, and he's a very good tackler. Now, as for his weaknesses, his transitions aren't super smooth, and it does allow some separation as he transitions from the press coverage into the trail technique, but he's so far been able to make up for that with his length. I don't think he's going to thrive if he's asked to play off zone or off coverage or zone coverage. He needs to be physical at the line of scrimmage. He also struggles to get off of blocks and run support at times, and he can be very grabby at the line of scrimmage while he lacks some ball protection. He only has 1 interception, so he's good at breaking up passes, but not at converting them into turnovers. If you take Joey Porter Jr., you're committing yourself to putting him on the line to play press coverage. And so he won't be a fit for every team, but for a team that plays that scheme, Joey Porter Jr. is a top prospect in this draft class. And that wraps up this video and this project, ranking my top 100 prospects and putting out videos on each of them. If you have followed along from the beginning of the project, I really do thank you for your support. If you missed a video, you can check them out down here in the description. I have links to all of the videos, and I hope you will join us live on the Edge of Philly Sports YouTube page during night 1 and 2 of the draft, when I will be live along with a couple other guys bringing you all the content you need, breaking down every selection, and talking about all of these players we've spent the last few months studying. So I hope to see you guys next Thursday night at the draft.